The LMC casts a wide net over the Sound Shore to bring you local event info, profiles, and conversations. Recorded in the heart of the village in Mamaroneck Cinemas at the studio on the Avenue, LMC Media brings you the LMC Cast Community Profiles.
Hello and welcome to LMC Cast. I am your host, Gladys Dibble, broadcasting straight from the Avenue in Mamaroneck. Today, we will be speaking with Alan Dienstag and Katie Sawyer. They are from the Larchmont Mamaroneck Community Counseling Center right here in our neighborhood. And I can't wait for you to hear all about the amazing programs they have available to all of us. Welcome to LMC Cast.
Thank
you.
Thank
you're
you,
very
Gladys.
welcome. It's great to have you here.
And it's good to be here.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about these programs that I hear so much about.
Sure. So about 50 years ago, the counseling center was established by the school district, the local municipalities here in Larchmont, Mamaroneck, concerned citizens, family members, parents, as a place for adolescents, teens, and their families. And since that time, we've been providing services to the community, counseling services and other kinds of services. This is a locally sourced, homegrown counseling center for this community.
We are so lucky to have you here.
Yeah.
It really is a game changer to have you in our community. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think what's really particularly special about this community counseling center is we do what you would think, right? We provide individual and family counseling to middle and high school students and their families. And we do so much more. So we run programs in the elementary and middle schools. We work directly with students, teaching them life skills, as a prevention technique, as, helping them cope with stress, helping them navigate, social stresses, academic stresses, and peer pressure as well. We also provide a lot of support for parents. So we offer numerous groups, parent skills groups, to teach them skills to help them be more effective parents, as well as to help parents who have particularly anxious children. And, you just have to open the newspaper to see just how anxious all of our children are these days.
I know. And it's really disheartening to see that, right?
Yeah.
I see it all the time, or my kids will tell me like, oh, one of my friends is having a hard time or they're in counseling. Do you see a negative impact after COVID with our children and parents?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been a big, it was an earthquake emotionally and socially, for families and for kids who got separated from their peers, and who lost a lot of time and a lot of experience. When the kids came back, what we heard from teachers is, they actually have sort of forgotten how to be students in school. And so socially, for a lot of kids, the isolation was really negative. It's just unhealthy.
Correct.
For kids not to be around one another, not to have that kind of daily interaction.
Yeah.
And obviously parents as well were suffering during that time. So yeah, it's and while we were going through it, I think part of what we were telling people is that the impact of this, as hard as it is now, is not really going to be felt for a few years. That's the nature of trauma. That's the nature of challenges that people have. It's not just that in the immediate moment. Right. What happens. It's a year later or 2 years later. Things start to catch up. So I think some of that stuff that we're seeing, in terms of increased anxiety and difficulties is for sure attributable to that,
And I think there's a, I wouldn't call it exactly a silver lining, but, there is a little bit of a shift to where there's far less stigma. there's far greater emphasis on getting help, admitting you need help. And, while that's not 100%, a result of COVID, I think that, certainly drew people's attention and, has created a lot more emphasis on, it's okay to not be okay. And to, a greater push to like check in on your fellow human to see, if they're doing okay.
They're doing okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen a shift for the better now that time is progressing and we're back and kids are back in school and they're doing different activities? Do you actually see a little bit of that change in them?
I mean, I think a lot of kids are really grateful to be back and to be participating in things and to be putting that kind of, the isolation, behind them. And what we try to emphasize, coming out of it is to encourage people to check in on one another and to kind of ask, "Are you okay?" To not be shy about that, to not be afraid, actually, because I think a lot of people are afraid to ask that question. When they see someone who looks like they're having a hard time or a hard day, to ask that very simple question, "Are you okay?"
And sometimes that's all it takes, right? I mean, I've been, let's say, at a supermarket, and I gravitate a lot towards energy, and I can also, I feel like I feel it when someone is going through something, and I'll just stop and ask, like, "Are you okay?" Or "Everything's gonna be okay. Do you need someone to talk to?" And it's okay to do that because you just never know how you're changing someone's day. And by the end of the conversation, they might be smiling, which is, I'm like, okay, mission accomplished.
And Gladys, that's exactly what we all need to be doing more of. At the at the community counseling center, we have, a waiting list. We wish we could see everybody right away. And so, it's incumbent upon all of us as members of this community or a member of the human race to check in with each other like that, to, understand that every person we walk by is probably going through something. And, we can get out of ourselves for just a hot minute, like you do in the grocery store, and check in with our fellow human beings and really help them feel seen.
That's such an important point, Katie. I mean, I do think one of the things that's changed with COVID is that we recognize that there needs to be more therapy that takes place outside the office. And that involves trying to educate people and guide people about how to be therapeutic in regular life, not just when you're in a therapy office. That's I think an approach that's come out of the need for service that we see, and the sense of difficulty and challenge and suffering that has kind of followed the pandemic, and the feeling that people have about the way the world is. I certainly hear a lot about that in my office. I'm sure you do too. This sense of like, things are crazy, right? Aren't they crazy?
They are. I thought it was me.
Yeah, well, people...
No, you're having all the right feelings.
Yeah, exactly. We will validate that feeling. Yeah, no, people have that feeling. They think, is it me?
Right.
Or is the world crazy right now? And am I feeling
sometimes,
crazed by that?
Yeah,
right?
Sometimes I don't even want to listen to the news because it's...
Yeah, sure.
It's probably better that I don't.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah, right. Or having some boundaries about the news, right? Not just taking it in and taking it in and taking it in. There's a kind of cycle, there's a kind of endlessness of the drumbeat of negativity and divisiveness and uncertainty that you can expose yourself to. That's, at a certain point, it's too much.
Correct.
Too much.
And I've always said that with every negative experience, there's always positive. So I actually think that even though we went through so much as a nation and the pandemic was not easy, but it actually brought our families together. So just wanted to just take that approach at looking at such a negative thing and just all right, yes, we went through that, but
Mm-hmm.
families did get a chance to spend a lot of time together, a lot of nature walks, a lot of hiking, and which was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just wanted to end that topic on a positive note.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. I can quote Esther Perel, who's a very well-known marital therapist and family therapist, who said that COVID was a relationship accelerator. So whatever was going on, that's good and bad.
True.
It was intensified by the contact, by the like, oh wow, we're really on top of each other right now, aren't we? We're
Right.
seeing a lot more of each other, and there's something that's kind of brewing. So there is a lot of intensity that kind of came out of that,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit about the programs that are available in the school. I know you touched a little bit upon it, but as a mom, I think I'm just interested in what type of programs you go into the school. What do you share with the kids
Or parents.
or
right?
parents, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, for the kids, it changes a little bit year to year.
Okay.
So I think currently we see every sixth grader.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just once a week for a period of, I think, 7 weeks.
Okay.
And there's a curriculum and that's called Life Skills. And it's just that. It's life skills. It's, when you feel stressed out, what can you do? When you feel alone, what can you do? When somebody's bullied, what do you do? And then there's also some substance abuse prevention strategies that sort of start early on, looking at caffeine as a drug, and they learn all about the impact of caffeine.
You forget, don't you?
I sure do. I am addicted to caffeine.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Right. Hello,
Yeah.
my name is Katie, and I'm addicted to
Yes.
caffeine.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think and the other thing that's amazing is we see these kids in middle school and they remember us. And so sometimes these kids that we see in middle school, they get to high school, they're really struggling, and sometimes they self-select and will contact us directly and come to see us because they remember this experience they had in sixth grade.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that you've caused such an impact that they feel open enough to just go and seek help or come to you.
Yeah.
And we're incredibly lucky that the school has opened its doors to us. I mean, we are part of the school district, and it's very unique that we can walk in the building, that their guidance counselors can refer people to us, and there's, a real open, valve between the two, entities, the school and our building.
So, familiarity is such it's such an important thing in terms of the work that we do, and sort of so that the counseling center becomes a kind of familiar part of people's experience and people's lives, and that can help people get over the hump of making that phone call, showing up, sort of accessing services. And then Katie and I are in the schools a lot, talking to parents about a wide variety of topics that we select and that they select, because Gladys, parents need a lot of guidance, right?
Yes.
As a parent, I know that. As a parent, you know
I
that.
sure do.
We both know that. Parents need a lot of guidance and a lot of love,
Yes.
and a place to learn things and to talk about the experience. So we're in the elementary schools and in the middle schools talking about topics that parents want to talk about, and doing a little teaching, a little opportunity to problem solve, for people. We just did one called "Help! I'm a Better Parent Than My Partner," which was a lot of fun, and kind of put a pin in something that's really, a common experience that every parent has. Like when you're parenting with someone else, you don't always have the same idea
Correct.
about what to do. So stuff like that,
And while we're very grateful when our parents leave with some nuggets of information, I think the most important thing is they leave feeling less alone.
Yeah.
That we, all parents struggle. Like, we all do a really good job putting on our Instagram face and, showing how fabulous our family is when we cook together, we hike together. But the reality is parenting is really hard and can be really lonely. And so parents will often comment when they leave one of our conversations. And they're like, wow, a lot of people feel the same way I do. And that is our most important goal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so important because parents sometimes do feel isolated or am I the only one? Does this only happen in our family? No, it's happening everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you for that because that, we need a lot of that support as parents and this community. We do.
I think the best moments in those meetings and in those groups are when someone's talking and you look around and you see someone doing this.
Just nodding.
Just nodding, just like, and they're having that experience of like, oh, okay, yeah, right. I am not the only one, right? You get it. I completely understand what you're saying, right? And that's healing. That's healing.
Sure is. Sure is. Yeah. And sometimes parents struggle with how to talk to kids about certain topics like the birds and the bees. Has that been like one
we
of
have
the
a very famous talk that we give about once a year in the middle school called Birds, Bees, and Brave Conversations. It's typically one of our best attended talks of the year because, parents do struggle, particularly in the age of the digital age where kids have access to things like pornography and other things that, none of us grew up with that kind of unfettered access to information and content. And helping parents navigate that is no small task.
I bet. And I think social media is definitely, as much as it's great, from a business perspective, if you have a business to promote your business. But on the other side, as a parent, sometimes you do wonder, like, are my kids not that they will go out and search, but sometimes when you're searching for other things would just pop up on their screen.
Well, they do search.
See?
They do search, and the thing is,
mother of 11-year-old twins.
That's exactly the age where it's important to start thinking about it. And not only do they search, but the research tells us that for a lot of high school kids, internet porn is their primary source of information about sexuality. Think about that for a minute. Like, what? And so we get with parents and we say, hey, listen, if you're not going to talk about what they're seeing and what actual human sexuality is and what it's not, you're surrendering your children to this kind of influence and this kind of information. So it's really important. I mean, so it is our most popular talk, and it's the one that people get the most uncomfortable sitting and listen. They kind of walk out like shaking sometimes but we got to talk about these things, right? It's not.
Sometimes you have to listen to those uncomfortable conversations.
Absolutely.
And I think the people listening to this conversation, like, they're probably getting anxious too.
Yes, they think we just talk about pornography.
I know.
Right?
I mean, I'm sweating over here. I'm just kidding.
But I think it's so normal. It's so normal for kids to be curious. It's so normal as a parent to be uncomfortable. And I think that's the, you talked about silver linings, like that's the silver lining. Like, we all need to understand that much of what people are going through is very normal and understandable if we're just curious enough to look at it from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, what do you think, Gladys?
Oof, my mind is racing now. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, to take it a little bit out of that realm, right? There's also a lot of education that we're able to do about adolescent development, not just sexual development, But, thinking about the adolescent brain, we do a talk called 10 Things to Love About Your Adolescent's Brain, and kind of helping parents understand that, when your children are 11 and 12 and 13, their brain is going through an enormous surge of development. It's the
Right.
greatest change in brain functioning and brain structure that takes place in life. This is a big time of growth and change. And so a lot of the behaviors that we see and a lot of the challenges that we have with kids that age have to do with brain development. And so we try and put it in this kind of normative frame so parents
Right.
understand a little bit about the biology, and that
Right.
helps, right?
It does.
Right?
It does. It also helps as a parent to understand that we can't take everything so personal.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's right.
I have a 30-year-old, so I've already been
Yes, through
through
that.
this. So when I speak to parents, that's what I often say. Like, just don't take it personal. They're going through so many changes.
Right. It's
Right.
not about you.
It's not about you. They'll come back, and everything will kind of simmer
Yeah.
back down again.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
if anybody would like your services
Mm-hmm.
and they're interested in approaching the community resource center,
Mm-hmm.
where can they go? Do you have a physical building?
We do. We're actually right around the corner from Studio on the Ave. We're at 234 Stanley Avenue.
Okay.
In Mamaroneck. They can call us. Our number is
914-698-7549.
and we also have a website,
Of
which
course.
is communitycounselingcenter.org.
Awesome.
Community counseling, and counseling with one L. I think you'd probably find it anyway, but communitycounselingcenter.org. Yeah, we're right here. And the building's been there for almost 100 years. It's gone through many different phases.
Right.
It was a pediatric clinic at one time where people would go and get their immunizations. It belongs to the town,
Okay.
but in the deed to the building is when it was given to the town, the agreement was that it had to be devoted to families and children, whatever use it was put to, and so that's where we are, and so it's
That's
a
great
nice,
to know.
friendly little old building there on Stanley
And
Avenue.
sometimes during business hours, people walk into the waiting room, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
okay too.
Love that.
It's
Okay.
it's important to know that we don't accept insurance, but we do have a very generous sliding scale,
Okay.
and so we don't turn away anybody because they can't pay.
Great. That's great to know. You heard it here at LMC Cast, right? So if you do need services, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Community Counseling Center for Larchmont and Mamaroneck. I just have one last question. In this work, in this what you do, what is the most gratifying thing you would say comes out of this, comes out of what you do day in and day out?
There is nothing more amazing than having a front row seat to people's growth.
And you're gonna make me cry.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah, I agree. When people come in and say, that conversation that we had last week, really something clicked for me. I realized something important about myself and about my family. It's going to make a big difference. So yeah, no, we're privileged to do what we do, and people share really important things with us, and so even a regular day can feel special, right? It can feel like something important has happened. So
That's
yeah,
great. And thank
yeah.
you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And on behalf of Larchmont and Mamaroneck, I would love to just say thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for what you do for our families, our children, our schools. It means a lot. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us here at LMC Cast.
Oh, well, thanks
It's been
for
such a
inviting
pleasure.
us,
Yeah.
Gladys. Yeah,
Thank
it's a
you.
pleasure.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us here on the studio on the Avenue. It's been great. Until next time, let's continue to stay connected and continue to strive to build a community that strives and that is strong. Thank you.
The LMC Cast Community Profiles, produced at LMC Media's studio on the Avenue. Visit lmcmedia.org to book your time in this state-of-the-art convenient location, walkable from the Metro North train station on Mamaroneck Avenue. You can also support this nonprofit media center at lmcmedia.org/donate.